Hey, this is the Entertainment Advice Channel. What I want to talk about today is the topic of, is the Star Wars universe doomed? So, when it comes to the topic of the Star Wars universe being doomed, what I mean by that is is the Star Wars universe pretty much screwed up, to the point of it being unable to fix it, okay? Like being able to make new movies, new TV shows, whatever, because of how poorly written D- Star Wars has been under Disney, for that matter, okay? Is it irredeemable? And the simple answer to that question, if I could give an answer, for the most part, maybe there's a way to do it, but for the most part, for certain, yes, I do believe the Star Wars universe is doomed, okay? So when it comes to the Star Wars universe being doomed, the reason why I say that the Star Wars universe is not able to be redeemed in honesty, to put it bluntly, you know, for that matter, is due to the fact that literally everything you can imagine that makes up the Star Wars universe, okay? Whether it could be obviously things like what happened, you know, for the transition period when Anakin, of course, was becoming a full blown Jedi, between pretty much Attack of the Clones and the third Star Wars movie, that part of the series. Or it could obviously be what happens after, Darth Vader, and Palpatine, so in other words, what happens after the end of the original trilogy, or I should say the original Star Wars, three movies, like what happens after that, for that matter, stuff like that. The simple truth of the matter is every single thing you can imagine, for that matter, okay, including the two I mentioned, what happened between Attack of the Clones and of course the third Star Wars movie, which was Revenge of the Sith, that time period to what happened after, Anakin became Darth Vader, for that matter. And of course, they went on a mission to wiping out all Jedi, and of course, just to add to that as well, what happens after Darth Vader died, after he defeated his master Palpatine, all that type of stuff. Literally, all the three main stories you can discuss for Star Wars have pretty much been screwed up permanently because of the management of Disney. So, in short, to answer your question, absolutely, for the most part, okay, Star Wars, the series we all grew up with and are familiar with, is screwed, okay? It's screwed. For that matter, it's not coming back. It's done. It's pretty much done for that matter, okay? As we know it. And it's so unfortunate because it's such a good series. It had so much potential, for that matter, to be honest with you. It's literally has like everything you could ever want, especially if you're in a sci-fi. It has everything from coolest looking spaceships, a vast, interesting universe to explore, lightsabers, like the idea of having a weapon that is that is like a laser sword and all that type of stuff. Like it just has everything pretty much you could ever want, and it just fell apart because you know, the person who runs Disney just didn't do a good job in running, of course, the Star Wars universe, She didn't have the best script writers. She not only didn't have the best script writers, who were writing these stories, she just didn't in general, for that matter, hire the very best people, whether it could be actors or people who obviously, were writing the scripts for the TV shows and the movies, which is why it's so full of plot holes and a lot of other issues. She just didn't do a good job in it. It was just simply a cash grab. And it's so sad because it's such a magnificent series that was ruined by simple stupidity. Some people say it's greed, but I don't even think it's greed. I think it's just stupidity. Even back in the days, especially as someone who grew up in the 2000s, there's bare cash grabs out there that were created. But even then, and trust me, and even look it up yourself, okay? Look at all the cash grabs we had back in the days, okay? For all these movies, TV shows, and all that stuff, whether it could be video games or spin-off series and all that stuff. But even when you look at that stuff, okay, which of course you can obviously tell is a cash grab, there's at least a decent level of quality to it. Okay. For that matter, okay. Look at all that stuff. Even some of the video games that back in the days we said was shit, for that matter, like those movie video games, like Transformers movies and all that type of stuff, and all that type of crap, whatever. You can imagine, those obvious crash grabs, there is still a decent level of quality. And you could still look at some of those things, which I was getting at before, and look at them and say, this is still better than a lot of things that's coming out today. So people, at least back then, were trying. So it's not even down a cash grab. She's just stupid. The person who runs the Disney company is just dumb, in honesty. And that is the honest truth of the matter. That's really all it is. It has nothing to do with anything else. She's just dumb, um to be quite blunt and honest with you, okay? And that is the honest truth. So, in short, to answer your question, without a shadow of a doubt, it is screwed. It is simply screwed. The only question, of course, that obviously could come up is that is there at least a little glimmer of hope? Ironically, since one of the Star Wars movies is called A New Hope. Well, there is one way that there could be possibly some hope, which is if they do a um brand or whatever they call it, or where they pretty much take a movie series and they create a new version of it, just like comic book movies, like there's difference between obviously the Spider-Man series that was released in the 2000s versus obviously the ones we've had ever since, specifically like the ones including people like Miles Morales and all those type of people, like shit like that. There is obviously clearly no surprise a difference in honesty, between the two, okay, universes. So in other words, creating a new universe, for that matter, okay, which in itself would be kind of depressing because do you really want to have a new universe for that matter, a new Star Wars universe that doesn't even have like people like Darth Maul and like Darth Sidious and like Darth Vader and all those type of people? That doesn't sound very fun to me at all. So to answer your question in short, simply put it, without a shot of a doubt, Star Wars for the most part is kind of screwed, and it's literally the person who runs Disney's fault. Okay, people might say no, there's still some hope or this and that. I don't know what hope you're talking about. Like, what hope is there really? There's not really much that can be done. It's pretty much done for that matter, okay? Maybe there could be some hope for a remaster, but for the most part, yeah, it's kind of screwed for, if anything, to be honest with you. So, yeah, in short, the Star Wars universe is pretty much screwed. It was nice while it lasted, but like a lot of things in the world, or more like everything, it has to come to an end at some point. And maybe you can watch old movies and stuff, but in the foreseeable future, and not like just a foreseeable future, just forever, there's not going to be any good new Star Wars movies. Maybe it's just time for us to move on and just find like new sci-fi series to follow, and that's honest truth. So in short, that is honest truth. Star Wars is screwed for the most part. There might be some hope, and for the most part, from what I can see, it's screwed, and that's honest truth. So anyway, this is my video. This is all I have to say. And simply put it, I hope you enjoyed the video. And just remember, if you enjoyed the video and videos like this, remember thumbs the video up and hit the subscribe button. And this is all I have to say. And simply put, I'm out. So bye.